Georgia still certainly on the nation's mind nearly 1 week following the election. As the count continues in some counties, in less than 30 minutes, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger's office is expected to update us on where Georgia stands in that counting process. Hopefully we should get a better idea of how many ballots are left. Right now in Gwinnett County, elections officials are meeting to discuss the progress they've made. Joe Ripley is there live. Joe, you have a breakdown for us, right?
Yeah, good afternoon. Gwinnett County Board of Elections has certified those election results around 10:30 this morning, coming after about an hour of meeting to decide and review those provisional ballots, about 965 of those provisional ballots.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to accept the official and complete results. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, they are accepted.
We just got the breakdown of provisional ballot rejections by the county minutes ago. About 894 provisional ballots were from people who voted in the wrong precinct and voters who did not show up on the list of electors in Gwinnett County. The county partially accepted about 513 out-of-precinct voters, those voters who voted and showed up at the wrong precinct. That means state and federal races would count, but not local races. That's what that partial acceptance means. 381 provisional ballots were rejected due to voters not being on the list of registered voters in Gwinnett County, and about 20 ballots were rejected because voters did not provide proper ID.
Alice said I had complete confidence in the office and the work that they've done. As far as everything else, I'll let the courts deal with that. But as far as our process and and everything that was done on Election Day, yes, I do have faith.
Today's review followed days of technical glitches here in Gwinnett County, delaying those vote counts. Gwinnett County Elections Board Chair John Mangano said he still had concerns about the Dominion software that caused headaches for election workers, but he felt confident that those issues would be worked out by the Senate runoff races come January. Now, this makes nearly 40 Georgia counties that have certified their election results. They have until Friday to do so, this Friday, November 13th, and they'll head to the Secretary of State's office to be certified by November 20th. And after that, those results go to the governor.
That's right. Out of 159 counties, we still have a ways to go. Thank you, Joe.